There are moments in life when betrayal does not knock on your door, it storms in, uninvited and unannounced. It shatters the peace you once knew, leaving behind the sharp edges of disappointment, confusion, and heartache. And yet, have you ever considered that this betrayal, this deep, cutting wound, is not merely an accident or a cruel twist of fate? What if it is a test? A divine trial meant to reveal, refine, and redirect you. It is difficult to imagine that God would allow such pain, that He would stand by as the people we trusted turn against us. But in His wisdom, God does not test us in seasons of comfort. He tests us in the fire. He does not expose deception. When all is well, He allows it to surface when we are vulnerable, when we least expect it. Because only then do we truly see who belongs in our lives and who does not. Think of the times you have sat in silence, questioning why someone close to you suddenly changed. The warmth in their voice grew cold. The kindness in their eyes faded. Their words, once filled with support, became laced with hidden jealousy or subtle disrespect. You felt it, but you could not explain it. And then one day the mask slipped, and the truth was revealed. God had been showing you all along, but were you paying attention? Betrayal has a way of making us feel foolish, as if we were blind all along. We ask ourselves, how did I not see this coming? How could I have been so naive? But this is where the test begins, not in the betrayal itself, but in our response to it. Do we allow bitterness to take root? Do we seek revenge? Or do we recognize that this is God's way of removing those who were never meant to walk with us into our destiny? Some betrayals come with loud declarations, with bold acts of deceit. But others are quiet, subtle, and far more dangerous. A friend who secretly envies your success. A relative who speaks ill of you behind your back. A partner who withdraws their love, yet pretends nothing is wrong. These betrayals are not accidents, they are revelations. God is showing you who is truly for you, and who has only been pretending. Consider Joseph, the favored son, the dreamer, the one whom God had chosen for something greater. His own brothers turned against him, sold him into slavery, and thought they had destroyed his future. Imagine the moment Joseph realized what was happening. Imagine the sting of knowing that the ones who should have loved him the most were the very ones who had thrown him away. He must have asked, why? Why would God allow this? But here is the truth. Had his brothers never betrayed him, Joseph would never have reached the palace. The betrayal was the vehicle that transported him to his destiny. What they meant for harm, God used for good. And that, my friend, is the mystery of divine testing. When someone betrays you, it is never about the person, it is about the lesson. It is about God revealing to you what was hidden, allowing you to see with clarity what your heart refused to accept. The pain is not meant to destroy you, but to awaken you. It is God shaking your foundation, not to break you, but to strengthen what remains. And here is something you must understand. Betrayal does not come from your enemies. It comes from those who sit at your table, those who share in your joys, those who know your weaknesses. A stranger cannot betray you. Only someone who was close enough to touch your heart can break it. Have you ever noticed how some people change when your blessings begin to increase? When God begins to elevate you, there will always be those who resent it. They may not say it outright, but their actions speak louder than words. They no longer celebrate your victories. They find subtle ways to belittle your progress. And one day, when you least expect it, their true nature is revealed. Do not mourn the loss of those God removes. Do not grieve over those who betrayed you. Instead, ask yourself, what is God trying to show me? What is He teaching me through this pain? Because when you understand the purpose of betrayal, you will no longer see it as a curse, you will see it as preparation. And so, my friend, if you are facing betrayal, do not be discouraged. God is testing your loyalty, not to them, but to Him. Not to your past, but to your purpose. The fire you are walking through is not meant to consume you, but to refine you. Now, let us uncover the 7 signs that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The first sign is they changed when you started growing. Growth is a powerful force. It shifts atmospheres, alters perspectives, and separates those who are meant to stay from those who are only passing through. When God begins to elevate you, when He begins to open doors and move you into your purpose, some people will celebrate you, but others will not. They will change. Their tone will shift. Their presence will become distant, and you will wonder why. This is one of the clearest signs that God is testing your loyalty, because not everyone around you can handle your growth. Some people only love you when you are struggling. They are comfortable when you remain small, because your smallness does not challenge their insecurities. But the moment you start stepping into something greater, the moment you begin to grow spiritually, mentally, or even materially, they change. Look at Saul and David. Saul once loved David. He brought him into his palace, made him his armor bearer, and favored him among all the young men. But the moment David's victories became greater, the moment the people began to praise him more than they praised Saul, the love turned to jealousy. The same Saul who once embraced David now sought to kill him. What changed? Not David. Saul changed because David's growth exposed what was hidden in Saul's heart. And that is what betrayal often does. It does not create something new in a person's heart. It reveals what was always there. When you started growing, when you started seeking God more, when you started pursuing your dreams with discipline and determination, did you notice that certain people who once walked with you began to step back? Did you notice that their encouragement faded, that their words became colder, that their support turned into silence? That is no accident. That is God revealing. Because God sees the hearts of people long before we do. He knows who is truly for us and who is only with us because they are comfortable in our weakness. And so, when He begins to bless you, He allows the shift to happen. He allows people to change, not to hurt you, but to teach you. Because if their love was real, your growth would not have threatened them. It would have inspired them. Joseph's brothers loved him when he was just another boy in their father's house. But when Joseph had a dream, when he began to see glimpses of the future God had for him, their love turned into resentment. They did not hate him because of what he had done. They hated him because of what he represented. He was a sign that God was moving, that something greater was coming, and they could not handle it. This is why you must pay attention to who celebrates you when God begins to shift things in your life. True friends, true family, true spiritual connections will never feel threatened by your growth. They will lift you up, they will pray over you, they will speak life into your destiny. But those who were only comfortable with you when you were struggling, when you were broken, when you were beneath them, will not be able to hide their true feelings when you rise. And here is the test. Will you hold on to those people even when God is exposing their hearts? Will you try to shrink yourself to make them comfortable? Or will you trust God enough to let go of what He is removing? Jesus experienced this too. The people who once shouted Hosanna were the same ones who later cried, "Crucify Him." Their change did not mean that Jesus had done anything wrong. It meant that the truth of who He was could no longer be hidden. And that is what happens when God begins to elevate you. He does not just bless you. He reveals who truly belongs in your journey. If someone changes when you grow, do not chase after them. Do not try to explain yourself. Do not try to make them understand. Because the ones who are meant to walk with you into your destiny will never feel threatened by what God is doing in your life. God is testing your loyalty, not to people, but to Him. Will you hold on to those He is exposing, or will you trust Him enough to let them go? Now, let us move to the second sign that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The second sign is their words and actions no longer align. Words are easy to speak. Promises are easy to make. But when God begins to test the people around you, one of the first things He will expose is the distance between their words and their actions. A person can say they love you, but love is not proven in words, it is revealed in actions. A person can say they support you, but true support is not spoken, it is demonstrated. Have you ever noticed someone in your life who used to speak highly of you, who used to claim they would always be there, but when the time came to stand with you, they disappeared? They made promises, but their actions betrayed their words. They said they would support your growth, but when the opportunity came, they were nowhere to be found. This is one of the clearest ways God reveals who truly belongs in your life. He allows circumstances to arise that force people to show their true colors. When everything is comfortable, it is easy for people to say the right things. But when your growth begins to challenge them, when your blessings begin to expose their insecurities, they will start to pull away. And at first they may try to hide it. They may still say all the right words, but their actions will begin to tell a different story. Look at Judas. He sat at the same table as Jesus. He walked with him, listened to his teachings, and called him Rabbi. To everyone around, Judas looked like a loyal disciple. His words were perfect, his outward devotion unquestionable. But when the moment of testing came, when the true heart of Judas was exposed, his words and his actions were no longer in agreement. He kissed Jesus with a greeting of love while handing him over to his enemies. His words called Jesus Master, but his actions called him disposable. That is what betrayal looks like. It does not always begin with a direct attack. It often begins with a silent shift, a change in behavior, a growing distance. Someone who used to celebrate your victories now only acknowledges them with forced politeness. Someone who once poured life into you now barely gives you their time. And if you confront them, they will deny it. They will say nothing has changed, because their words will always try to hide what their actions are revealing. But God sees what you cannot see. And when He begins to remove people from your life, He does not always do it with a loud confrontation. Sometimes He simply allows you to see the difference between what they say and what they do. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. So I ask you, are there people in your life whose actions no longer align with their words? Are there people who claim to love you, but their actions feel cold and distant? Are there people who say they will support you, but when you need them, they are absent? God is not showing you this to hurt you. He is revealing it to protect you. Because people like this, those whose words and actions no longer match, are dangerous. They will speak well of you in one moment and betray you in the next. They will stand beside you when it benefits them, but abandon you when your success makes them uncomfortable. Do not ignore the signs. Do not dismiss what God is exposing. If someone's words and actions no longer align, believe their actions. Because actions will always reveal the truth, even when words try to hide it. And now, let us move to the third sign that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The third sign is you feel drained after being around them. God did not design relationships to drain you. When He places people in your life, they should encourage, uplift, and strengthen you. That does not mean they are perfect. That does not mean they will always say what you want to hear. But the right people, the ones God ordains for your journey, will never leave you feeling empty and exhausted. Yet when God is testing your loyalty, when He is revealing who truly belongs in your life, one of the first signs will be how you feel after spending time with certain people. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling like something was taken from you? Have you ever sat with someone who, instead of uplifting you, left you questioning yourself? You walked in with peace, but left with confusion. You walked in with joy, but left feeling heavy. This is no accident. This is not just mood or energy, this is spiritual. Because just as there are people who pour life into you, there are people who unknowingly or deliberately drain the very essence of your spirit. Look at Samson and Delilah. Delilah did not attack Samson with weapons, she attacked him with words. She drained him not through physical force, but through persistent pressure. She did not strike him with a sword, she struck him with manipulation, with endless questions, with subtle attacks against his purpose. And by the time Samson realized what was happening, he had given away the very thing that made him strong. There are people in your life who are doing the same thing. They may not be outright enemies. They may not openly betray you. But every conversation with them feels like a battle. Every interaction leaves you more tired, more confused, more uncertain than before. This is not normal. This is not how God designed relationships are supposed to be. Yes, there will be times when people need your support, when they go through struggles and require your patience. But that is different from someone who constantly drains you, who never pours back into you, who only takes and never gives. Ask yourself, do I feel spiritually exhausted after being around this person? Do I leave conversations feeling worse, not better? Do they subtly discourage me even when their words seem harmless? Do they pull me away from God instead of pushing me closer to Him? If the answer to these questions is yes, then God is revealing something. He is showing you that this person is not meant to continue with you into the next season. You cannot carry dead weight into your destiny. You cannot hold on to people who drain your strength when God is calling you to be strong. And here is the test. Will you recognize the warning signs? Will you listen to the uneasiness in your spirit? Or will you continue to allow yourself to be drained, hoping that something will change? God does not expose people to hurt you. He exposes them to prepare you. He wants you to be surrounded by those who strengthen your spirit, not weaken it. And if you are feeling drained after being around someone, do not ignore it. That feeling is not a coincidence. It is a sign. Now let us move to the fourth sign that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The fourth sign is they speak against you behind your back. Loyalty is not measured in the words people speak to your face, but in the words they speak when you are not in the room. A person's true character is revealed not when they are standing beside you, but when they are standing before others. And one of the clearest signs that God is testing your loyalty and revealing someone's betrayal is when you begin to hear whispers of their true thoughts, whispers of their hidden resentment, whispers of their betrayal spoken in secret. At first it may come as a shock. You may refuse to believe it. Not them. They would never say that. But the signs are always there. You begin to notice the way people look at you differently. You sense a shift in the atmosphere when you walk into a room. Someone who once treated you with warmth and kindness now seems distant and guarded. And then, the truth comes out. They have been speaking against you behind your back. This is not just an ordinary betrayal. This is a spiritual test, because God hears what you do not hear. He sees what you do not see. And when He allows you to discover that someone has been speaking against you, He is not trying to destroy your trust. He is trying to protect your destiny. He is showing you that not everyone who walks with you is truly for you. Look at the story of Nehemiah. He was called by God to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, to restore what had been broken. But as he worked, there were men Sanballat, Tobiah, and others who plotted against him in secret. They whispered, they schemed, they mocked his efforts behind his back. They tried to turn others against him. They did not attack him to his face. Instead, they spoke against him where they thought he would not hear. And yet Nehemiah did not waste time trying to defend himself. He did not chase after their approval. He did not plead with them to understand his vision. Instead, he stayed focused on his mission, and he prayed, "Hear us, O our God, for we are despised." Turn their insults back on their own heads. Nehemiah 4:4. That is the test. When God reveals that someone has been speaking against you, will you waste time trying to make them understand you? Will you fight to prove yourself to people who have already decided to betray you? Or will you rise above their whispers and trust that God is in control? Because here is the truth: if someone is willing to speak against you in private, they were never truly for you in the first place. Think about Judas. He did not betray Jesus with a sudden act of treachery. The betrayal started in whispers. He questioned Jesus behind his back. He spoke to the chief priests in secret. He negotiated the price of his disloyalty. Before he ever kissed Jesus in the garden, he had already betrayed him with his words. This is how betrayal often begins, not with a dramatic act, but with quiet conversations, with words spoken in jealousy, with subtle attacks disguised as concern. And if you are facing this now, do not be discouraged. Do not waste your energy trying to chase down rumors, trying to correct false narratives, trying to make people see the truth. The truth does not need defending. God is your defender. When David was being pursued by Saul, there were men who whispered lies about him. They told Saul that David was plotting against him, that he was a threat. They turned the heart of the king against the one who had once been his greatest warrior. But David did not try to explain himself. He did not fight against their words. Instead, he placed his trust in God, saying, "Vindicate me, O Lord, for I have walked in my integrity." Psalm 26:1. This is what you must do. When you discover that someone has been speaking against you, recognize it for what it is, a test of your faith, a test of your patience, a test of whether you will fight battles that belong to God, or whether you will trust Him to handle those who plot against you. God is revealing the truth to you, not to break you, but to build you. He is showing you the difference between true friends and false ones, between those who support you and those who only pretend. And if He has allowed you to hear the whispers, it is because He is preparing to remove those who were never meant to be part of your future. So, let them talk. Let them whisper. Let them say what they will, because their words cannot stop what God has ordained for your life. And now let us move to the fifth sign that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The fifth sign is they celebrate your failures but stay silent in your victories. One of the clearest signs that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal is when you begin to notice their reaction to your struggles versus their reaction to your success. A true friend, a loyal companion, a God-sent person will celebrate your victories as if they were their own. They will rejoice when you are elevated. They will praise God for your blessings, and they will stand by your side as you step into greater things. But when God is exposing someone who was never truly for you, their silence will be louder than their words. Have you ever noticed that there are certain people in your life who seem almost too quick to acknowledge when you fail, when you fall, when you stumble, when things don't go your way? They are the first to notice. They suddenly become attentive. They reach out, not in true concern, but with a hidden sense of satisfaction. It is as if your struggle reassures them, makes them feel better about themselves. But the moment you succeed, the moment something good happens, they disappear. Their silence is deafening. This is not a coincidence. This is God showing you the truth. Look at Cain and Abel. Abel's offering was accepted by God, while Cain's was rejected. Instead of seeking to grow, instead of humbling himself before God, Cain turned his frustration toward Abel. He could not celebrate his brother's favor because his own heart was filled with jealousy, and that jealousy led him to betrayal. Cain did not attack Abel when they were both struggling. He attacked him when he saw that God's hand was upon him. This is the nature of those who cannot handle your success. As long as you are struggling, they are comfortable. As long as you are at their level, they remain close. But the moment you rise, the moment God begins to move you forward, they distance themselves. They withdraw their support. Their words become short. Their enthusiasm fades. And you are left wondering, why are they not happy for me? The answer is simple. They were never truly for you. They were only for their own comfort. Jesus experienced this same test. When He performed miracles, when He healed the sick and raised the dead, there were those who rejoiced, but there were also those who remained silent, watching, waiting, hoping for Him to stumble. And when the moment came for His crucifixion, they were the first to shout, "Crucify Him." The same people who had watched Him in awe, the same ones who had stood in the crowds as He preached, refused to celebrate His victories. But when the opportunity arose to see Him fall, they took it. And so I ask you, who is silent in your life when you succeed? Who is absent when you are being blessed? Who refuses to acknowledge the favor God has placed upon you? Because the truth is, silence is an answer. Indifference is a response. If someone cannot celebrate you, they do not truly support you. This is a difficult reality to accept because we want to believe that the people we love will always want the best for us. But the hard truth is that not everyone around you is happy to see you rise. Some people have attached themselves to you, not out of love, but out of convenience. They enjoy the version of you that struggles. They feel secure when you are beneath them or at their level. But the moment God begins to elevate you, their true heart is revealed. Have you ever had a moment where something incredible happened, an opportunity, a breakthrough, an answered prayer, and you shared it with someone, only to be met with forced enthusiasm or empty words? They might say, "That's great," but there is no real joy in their voice. Or worse, they change the subject, refusing to acknowledge what God has done. That silence is not accidental. That is God revealing what was hidden. When you begin to notice this pattern, do not ignore it. Pay attention to the ones who clap for you when you win. Pay attention to the ones who truly rejoice when you succeed. Because the people who love you, the people who are truly meant to be in your life, will never feel threatened by your growth. They will never see your success as their loss. They will never celebrate your failure, but remain silent in your victory. God is testing you because He does not want you to carry false relationships into the destiny He has prepared for you. If someone cannot celebrate your success, they do not belong in the next season of your life. And now, let us move to the sixth sign that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The sixth sign is, you keep feeling uneasy about them. One of the most powerful ways God reveals someone's betrayal is through a deep, unshakable feeling in your spirit, an uneasiness you cannot explain. You may not have any proof. You may not have heard them say anything against you. They may still smile in your face, still speak words of support, still act as if nothing has changed. But deep down, something feels off. Something inside you is warning you, nudging you, whispering that this person is not who they appear to be. This is not paranoia. This is discernment. God gave you a spirit of discernment for a reason. He does not want His children to walk blindly into deception. He does not want you to be fooled by people who pretend to be for you but are secretly against you. And so, before their betrayal ever reaches your ears, before their actions confirm your suspicions, God allows you to feel it in your spirit. Have you ever been around someone and felt a strange discomfort, even when they were being kind? Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt drained, confused, or unsettled, even though nothing outright was said? That feeling is not something to ignore. That is God speaking to you, protecting you from something your eyes have not yet seen. Look at Jesus and Judas. Jesus always knew what Judas would do. He never had to hear Judas' secret conversations. He never had to catch him plotting. The moment Judas walked with him, Jesus already discerned his heart. He said in John 6:70, "Have I not chosen you, the 12? Yet one of you is a devil." Jesus did not need proof. He did not need to wait for Judas to betray him before he understood who he was. His spirit had already revealed the truth. And that is what happens when God is testing you. Before the betrayal becomes clear, before their words and actions confirm it, God will stir something inside you. You may try to ignore it. You may try to convince yourself that you are overthinking, but the feeling lingers. And the more you try to silence it, the stronger it becomes. This is because God does not want you to be deceived. He does not want you to keep people in your life who secretly resent you. He does not want you to trust someone who is smiling at you today but will turn against you tomorrow. And so, He allows that uneasiness to grow until you can no longer ignore it. Think about King Saul and David. At first, Saul welcomed David. He brought him into his palace. He gave him a place of honor. But soon Saul began to feel uneasy about David. He could not explain it, but he sensed something different about him. And instead of celebrating David's anointing, Saul allowed his fear and jealousy to grow until it turned into hatred. Now imagine if David had ignored the signs. Imagine if he had continued to serve Saul without recognizing that God was warning him. He would have walked right into destruction. But David discerned the shift. He sensed the danger. And because of that, he was able to escape before Saul could take his life. The same applies to you. If God keeps allowing you to feel uneasy about someone, it is for a reason. You do not need proof. You do not need to wait for a betrayal so obvious that you can no longer deny it. If your spirit is warning you, that is enough. Because when God speaks, he does not always speak through words. Sometimes he speaks through discomfort. So I ask you, is there someone in your life who makes you uneasy? Someone who used to bring you peace, but now brings confusion? Someone whose presence drains you, even though you cannot explain why? Do not ignore it. Pray about it. Ask God to reveal what is hidden. Because every time he allows you to feel this way, he is trying to protect you from something. And the worst mistake you can make is to silence the very warning God placed inside of you. When God is testing you, he will not always show you everything at once. Sometimes he will start with a whisper, a feeling, a small sign that something is not right. And those who are wise will listen. Now let us move to the seventh sign that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. The seventh sign is God is showing you the truth, but you don't want to see it. One of the hardest parts of betrayal is not the act itself, but the moment you realize you knew all along. The signs were there. The warnings were clear. The uneasiness in your spirit, the shift in their behavior, the whispers behind your back, God had been revealing it to you for some time. But you didn't want to believe it. You didn't want to see the truth. This is one of the deepest tests of loyalty, because when God is exposing someone, he is not just testing them, he is testing you. He is testing whether you will hold on to what is familiar, or whether you will trust him enough to let go. He is testing whether you will cling to the illusion of loyalty or embrace the reality of who someone truly is. Think about Samson. He had every reason to walk away from Delilah. She had tested him again and again, trying to find the secret to his strength. He knew something was wrong. He must have felt it in his spirit. He must have noticed the pattern. But instead of accepting the truth, he ignored it. He convinced himself that it wasn't as bad as it seemed. And in the end, his refusal to see the truth cost him his strength, his sight, and almost his life. How many times has God shown you that someone does not truly belong in your life, yet you have made excuses for them? How many times have you ignored the warning signs because you didn't want to lose them? Because you didn't want to believe that the person you trusted could betray you? This is the final test. When God is showing you the truth, will you accept it, or will you pretend not to see? Look at how Jesus handled betrayal. He knew Judas was not loyal to him. He knew from the beginning who would betray him, yet he did not cling to Judas, hoping he would change. He did not ignore the truth to protect his emotions. When the time came, he said to Judas, "What you are about to do, do quickly." John 13:27. Jesus accepted what was revealed to him. He did not fight it. He did not beg Judas to stay. He let him go. And that is what God is asking you to do. When he reveals someone's betrayal, when he removes the veil and shows you their true heart, he is not asking you to fix them. He is not asking you to convince them to stay. He is asking you to let them go. But this is where many people fail the test. Instead of accepting what God is showing them, they hold on. They justify the betrayal. They say, maybe they didn't mean it like that. Maybe I'm overthinking. Maybe they will change. But the truth is, people do not change unless God changes them. And if someone has already shown you who they are, it is not your job to convince them to be different. It is your job to trust God and walk away. This is why betrayal is painful, because it forces you to choose between what is comfortable and what is right. It forces you to see people as they truly are, not as you want them to be. And this is where faith comes in. Do you trust God enough to believe that if He is removing someone from your life, it is for your good? Do you trust that if He is closing this door, He has something better ahead? Abraham had to make this choice when God told him to separate from Lot. They had walked together for years. They were family. But the time came when God made it clear, Lot cannot go where I am taking you. And instead of resisting, instead of clinging to what was familiar, Abraham let go. And the moment he did, God gave him a greater vision. The moment he released what was not meant to go with him, God revealed the next step of his destiny. What if the betrayal you are experiencing is not a loss but a release? What if God is allowing you to see the truth because he is making room for something greater? If you have been seeing the signs but ignoring them, if you have been holding on to someone God has been trying to remove, then this is your moment of decision. God is showing you the truth. The question is, will you accept it? Now, you have seen the 7 signs that God is testing your loyalty by revealing someone's betrayal. Betrayal is one of the most painful experiences a person can endure, but it is also one of the most revealing. When someone turns against you, when their true heart is exposed, when God allows you to see what was once hidden, it is never without purpose. It is never just about the person who betrayed you, it is about your journey, your faith, your future. God does not allow betrayal to break you. He allows it to build you. He does not reveal disloyalty to leave you wounded. He reveals it to free you from what was never meant to continue with you. Because every time someone walks away, every time someone changes when you grow, every time their words and actions no longer align, it is not a loss, it is an answer. It is God's way of making room for something greater. Think back on every sign we have discussed. They changed when you started growing. Their words and actions no longer align. You feel drained after being around them. They speak against you behind your back. They celebrate your failures but stay silent in your victories. You keep feeling uneasy about them. God is showing you the truth, but you don't want to see it. If you recognize these signs in someone, do not ignore them. Do not dismiss them as mere coincidences. God does not waste time revealing what is hidden unless it is necessary for your growth. He is protecting you from something you do not yet understand. He is preparing you for a future where only those who truly belong can walk with you. And this is where faith comes in. Will you trust him? Will you release what he is asking you to let go of? Will you stop chasing after people he has already removed? Remember, when God takes something away, he never leaves you empty. When he exposes someone's betrayal, it is not to break your heart, it is to strengthen it. It is to remind you that your future is not dependent on any human relationship. Your destiny is in his hands, and he will never let betrayal stop what he has planned for you. So, stand firm. Let go of what no longer belongs. Trust that what God reveals is always for your good, because when you release what is false, you make room for what is truly divine. And when you choose to trust him, you will see that every betrayal was simply a step towards something far greater than you could ever imagine.